Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm gonna invite my guest now because I can't wait for this live stream to start because this one is definitely one of the most interesting I've ever had here on my Instagram. So let's get this party started. Hello, Lais.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, it's good morning where you live, right?
For some reason, my headphones stopped working. I had tested it before, so I can't hear you. So give me 1 second.
Okay.
I have a backup plan
All right.
here. Always good to have one.
Sure. Yeah. Plan B.
Sorry about the noise, guys. There you
Hello.
go.
Can you hear
Now
me?
I can hear you
Okay.
perfectly. Yes.
You know,
Why do we pay like $1,000 for a thing like this and it doesn't work when we need them to do?
right? And sometimes the cheapest thing works wonders. And
Those are the free ones from Samsung, so
yeah,
kudos for those.
of course. And so, Lais, it's so great to finally meet you.
It's
And
my
first of
pleasure.
all,
Thanks for having me, Isabel.
not at all. First of all, I just want to say thank you for agreeing to this. And I'd really like for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story.
Sure, I think I have a pretty different story from everyone that's watching this. As you can see, it's day here where I am because I do not live in Brazil. My name is Lais. I'm 32 years old. I've been living in Japan for what, 20 years now. So I
Really?
I don't even remember what it's like to live in Brazil.
Oh my
Yeah, and
God.
I'm an English teacher.
Yeah. That's like you must be a very cultural person because you are Brazilian, right? You're Brazilian, you live in
I
Japan,
am.
and you are an English teacher. So you must be a really cultural person. So what made you gravitate towards that direction?
You mean teaching English or coming here?
Both.
Because coming here wasn't a choice. I was born in Brazil, so obviously I'm Brazilian, but my grandparents are Japanese. So what gives me the right to live here? When things got tough in Brazil around 2002, 3, my parents decided to move here because
Mhm.
being a Japanese descendant, you have the right to you get the right to a visa. So yeah, that wasn't my choice.
Yeah.
Let's make
But
things
was it a
clear.
good thing for you?
At first I didn't think so. I had hopes my parents would leave me in Brazil with my grandparents until the last minute. I remember boarding the plane thinking, that's it, right? They're not leaving me here, and I'm
Oh
going
my God.
to the other side of the world. And imagine that for a child who's 12, 13 years old. It's traumatizing.
Yeah,
You're leaving all your
definitely.
friends, you're leaving everything behind, and there's no certainty. So yeah, at the time it was pretty tough on me. But now, I think it was a good decision. I love Japan. I still love Brazil. I'm proud to be Brazilian, but Japan is my home.
You,
So yeah,
have you
I
visited since you were like 12, right? 12 years old. No, you haven't visited Brazil?
never. It's
Really?
not that I don't want to, but it's a 24-hour flight, girl.
Yeah.
It's too far.
Oh my God. So what about like the rest of your family? Do they live here in Brazil?
My parents and siblings live here in
Hmm.
Japan. So maybe that's one of the reasons why I don't miss the country so much, except for the food. But yeah, my whole family's here. I'm married. My husband's family lives here too. So it's like we are in Brazil,
Yeah. So,
but
at the
we're
end of the
not.
day, it was a blessing in disguise, right?
I think so. I completely agree with you. I try not to regret things, especially because it wasn't my choice to come here. So I had to do the most with what I had.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It was an opportunity, right?
I
And
think so. Not many people have it.
what about teaching English? How did you enter that world? Because, it is a little confusing, right? When it must be for people when they meet you, for the first
I,
time, what do they think?
it's gonna get even more confusing
Oh my
because you
goodness.
mentioned that I'm Brazilian, right? And I was born in Brazil. I came here to live in Japan. I teach English in Japan to Brazilian people.
Really? So
So yeah,
you teach English as a second language, but to Brazilians, not to Japanese people. No.
that's right. I have had some Japanese students. At the moment, I don't have any, but I've had students in the past, but mainly Brazilian people here.
Oh
So
my
you
God.
asked me what made me gravitate towards English.
Yeah.
I think English was always a part of my identity since I was in Brazil. Started studying, I was like 11, 10, 11, and then I started studying English. So it's always been part of my life. When we moved here, Japanese and Portuguese are completely different languages, right?
Yeah.
And my parents put me in a Brazilian school here because the plan was to go back in 3 years, like all immigrants. That didn't happen, as you can
Yeah.
see. Uh, so they decided not to enroll me in a Japanese school. In consequence, I didn't learn any Japanese. So I started thinking, what can I do here, which is not the kind of work that everybody does, which is car factories, like electronic components factories. I don't want to do that. I want to do something else. So I started, improving my English. And, when you like what you do, people notice and you get really good at
Definitely.
it
Yeah,
effortlessly.
definitely.
Maybe the same thing happened to you, and I want to hear your story too.
Okay, yeah.
So some teachers started realizing how they said my English was good at the time. I don't know. I can't tell you. So they invited me to work part-time as an English school, and I was 16 at a time.
Oh my God. Yeah, I was
So I've been a
17 when I
teacher for
started,
16
so
years.
yeah.
How
Oh
did
my
you
God.
start?
I wanted to be a translator and I started in that world. And then there was like an opportunity when I was, in my first year in college, there was an opportunity for, like a job, but at a very good English school, like the best school where I live. And I was like, oh my God, I can't miss that. I know that I don't want to be a teacher, but I can't miss this opportunity because this, can open doors. And I've always been a firm believer that you're never like too good for an opportunity. You're never above things, above opportunities. So I was like, okay, this is it. I'm gonna, have this job while I'm still in school, and then this is gonna open some doors. And I started when I was 17 and I left 2 years ago.
Wow.
And that's how I started. And I still, I've worked as a translator, but that was never my main like source of income. So it's still something that I do, but not as much as I intended to. So we have that
See,
in
you've
common, right? Going, not actually having the dream of becoming a teacher, but ending up there by chance, almost by chance.
The thing with me, I think I've always wanted to. I've
Oh,
always
really?
had this. thing about I used to admire my English teachers. They were always the coolest ones, you know, they were always with their little radios in the 90s. So I always wanted to be like them because they were the cool guys
Yeah,
when I was
it's
younger.
funny. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because it's so interesting how we become role models, right? And how a good teacher can definitely influence you to follow a certain path or to despise that path. So that happens a lot.
Exactly.
Yes, for example, I work with, I'm a mentor, I mentor other teachers, and I work as a private teacher. And I have a student who is 10 years old, and she's having like something like that in her school. Like she's always liked Portuguese and English, and now in her school, she's having like some situations with those teachers, and she's changing her point of view so much. It can be a traumatizing situation for a small child. So I feel like we have such a huge responsibility on other kids, and this
Teachers are
is
the first influencers, right?
definitely. And also, I really think that students listen to us more than they listen to their own parents. And
Definitely.
definitely. So if we say that, for example, oh, this is such a beautiful drawing, you're so good at drawing, that student will definitely believe us more than if their mother said that. So we influence them on such a high level that it's, even a little dangerous, I think, because if we say something traumatizing, they will be traumatized. So
Definitely.
that's sad, but it goes both ways, right?
Yeah, we do hold a big responsibility as teachers. And I
Definitely.
guess like with the advent of social media, there are so many people who want to teach English but are not prepared to teach, not just
Yeah.
English. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah, you have to
definitely.
be careful with the words you use, how, yeah, like you said, it can traumatize a
Yeah.
kid. So yeah, big
First and
responsibility.
foremost, you are a role model, and you can't forget that, right?
True.
And that's the most important thing. Like even with um, managing, I don't know if that's the right word for that, but with managing the students' relationships with each other, like with their friends, because if there's bullying happening, or something like that, you are responsible for ending that situation and having your students leave that situation, unharmed. So that happens a lot too, especially in a group. Now that I teach, private students, not so much, but, back in the day where I was still working at an English course, I remember that. And that to me was one of the hardest things to do because with bullying, I have a zero tolerance to that. And that's something that really makes my blood boil. And I don't know if in Japan you had, situations like that, especially when you started, like as a student, as you said, when you were 12 years old, you were still a child. So how did you overcame, how did you overcome that situation? Because it must have been hard for you.
It's funny that you should mention that because in Japan there's this huge culture of something called ijime, which is the translation to bullying, and it's something that I hear a lot that kids go through when they go to Japanese school. I don't know why. Probably it's because the culture here of now I'm forgetting the words in English and in Portuguese, and I'm not even that fluent in Japanese. The culture of, well, whoever is above you, there's a hierarchy. Whoever
Mm-hmm.
is above you has the right to treat you a certain way.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because of that. So yeah, the bullying culture here is pretty big. That's not good.
Really?
But when I came here, I started studying at a Brazilian school, so I didn't expect to go through any of that. Boy, was I wrong.
Oh my goodness.
Uh,
There was bullying between like Brazilians.
not not the kind of bullying that people would call you names and stuff, but I was always the nerdy kid, liked superheroes and Harry Potter and the kind of thing that nobody liked at the time. So when I came here, the other kids they wouldn't talk to me because I was different from them. I didn't listen to funk music. I didn't watch soap operas or Big Brother. So because of that, they treated me differently. It didn't affect me because I guess when I was a child, I wasn't even paying attention to that kind of thing. But I think it does. Japanese school is on another level. Like it's the kind of bullying that people call you names and then I don't know. I see that in movies too. They beat you up, like in
Oh
American
my
high
goodness.
school,
It
sort
gets
of.
physical, right? You can
Yeah,
get
I've never
physical.
experienced that in any of my classes, so I don't know how I would deal with that.
Yeah,
Most of
that's
my students are older. They're 13 or older, so they're past that
that
phase,
age. Yeah. And sometimes, just like I said, there is a cultural influence. And especially, I don't know if that happens in Japan, but here in Brazil, people usually have strong opinions about, morals and ethics. So, for example, something that I consider bullying as a teacher, a parent might not consider it bullying. And
They're
that,
just teasing each other.
yeah, it's kids stuff. Let kids be kids, and, boys will be boys. And I don't agree with that. So I feel like bullying in any way, shape, or form is completely unacceptable in my class. And that's hard for parents to understand that. For example, once, just a small situation that happened that left me speechless at the time. I was teaching a 5-year-old group, and they were all very, very small kids. And I'm a firm believer that kids repeat things a lot, and behavior too, and words, and everything. So a boy called a girl names, like really bad names. And when the father came to pick him up, I'm a crystal clear person. I'm very open about things that happen in my classroom. And so I decided to tell the father, this situation happened. He apologized to the girl, but I think you should be aware of the situation. And the response was, but is the girl what he said? Because if she is what he said, he shouldn't be apologizing.
What an
Yeah, I know.
SH.
So that happened, and I would really like to know if that happens in Japan too. If you, because this is just an example, but this happens quite often. Being honest, what about there?
It's funny that you're bringing these subjects up that I wasn't expecting them.
Oh, sorry.
But it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. It's not related to bullying, but you're going to understand after I explain.
Hmm.
When I started teaching here, I was really young, right?
Yeah.
And I was used to communicating with Brazilian people born and raised in Brazil or Brazilian people that went to Brazilian schools. They have our personality, right? You voice
Yeah.
your opinions.
Yeah.
But then after a certain age, I had to start teaching kids that came from the Japanese school. So their inside was Japanese, even though they looked Latino.
Hmm.
And what I couldn't understand until up to a year ago was that Japanese culture teaches you that saying what you think might be rude. Because in Japan, people take a lot into consideration what other people think. And if if my opinion is going to hurt that person, I shouldn't say it. So they think a lot before they say anything. So what would happen in my classes was like, I would ask a simple question like, oh, what's your favorite cartoon? What's your favorite anime? And the kid would be like, for minutes and
Oh
minutes.
my
And
goodness.
so I was thinking, was it an offensive question? Did the kid understand the question? Should I repeat the question? Or they just don't want to answer it? What's going on in their heads? And I only now understand that they are afraid that their answer is going to offend somebody else. If I tell them that my favorite anime is Naruto, what if they like Pokemon more? Oh my God, what's going to happen? So all this internal battle is going on inside their heads. And now I get it. So when you ask me about having to deal with parents that are
Little,
they're SHs,
yeah.
if I ever had to deal with that, no, because the culture here is don't offend people.
The complete
If
opposite.
you,
Yeah.
right. The same thing doesn't go for Brazilian parents, but I don't have, I've never had a bad experience with that. Like if I bring up something that happened in class with the parents, they will always respect me and I'll deal with the child at home. It's probably because my clientele is pretty small, right? You said you used to work for a big school, so there were
Yeah.
probably hundreds of students. Here, because it's a private school, I have like 100 students tops. So it's easier to deal with them. And
Okay.
there's a student of mine, he was saying, I miss you, teacher. He recently came, he went back to Brazil. I miss you too, Murilo.
Oh.
Come back.
Oh my God. Thank goodness for internet, right? And, being
Right.
able to see each other. That's good. That helps. And so that's so interesting because I feel like we're living in, extreme, like polar opposites. So that's really interesting to, get to know. What about the process of graduating? How was it? Because here, for example, here there is something that's a little controversial that happens, and is, for example, imagine a person like has a job that has nothing to do with teaching. For example, an engineer lives in the USA for a couple years and then they come back and they are able to work as an English instructor, not a teacher, but as an instructor. But you can only be a teacher if you graduate here in Brazil. I'm sure that in different parts of the world that is different. For example, I have a friend who used to be a colleague of mine at this school, but she came back to her country, which is France. And she said that the process is completely different there. Like you have to do many, many things before being a teacher, like a lot more than here in Brazil. Yeah, not, graduating is not enough for them. And
Wow.
here, yeah, here it is. And but if you're not graduated, you can still work as an English instructor, not a teacher. How about there in Japan? How does that work?
Good question. Lots of people don't know that, but teaching English in Japan is a huge market. And having a graduation isn't required, especially because I'm talking about the Japanese market, yeah, not teaching English to Brazilians.
Yeah.
When Japanese value Americans so much, they will give them a visa just to come here and teach for a couple of years. So if you're American or if you're a native speaker, that's what they call it. If you're a native speaker and you want to come live in Japan, they'll just give you a visa right away. And the only thing you have to hold is any degree. It could be a physics teacher. You could be a PE teacher in your country. If you come from America or England, you can be an English teacher here. Or what they call a ALT, which is a system
Mm-hmm.
language teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I did graduate. but not through the obvious methods. Uh, it's funny that you ask that because when I was 16, I stopped studying. I am a high school dropout,
Hmm.
so
It happens, you know.
it
It's
was,
okay.
I don't regret it because it took me where I am today.
Yeah, that you
I dropped
definitely
out
had
of
your
high
reasons.
school because I wanted to study English. My dad didn't want to pay for my course. So I said, what the heck? So you don't have to pay for the private school and then you pay for my English course. How about that? Then he said, no, if you want to study, you go to work. And that's what I did. Because I had that crazy decision when I was 16, I'm here
But it
today
worked for
talking to
you. I
you.
think you were very wise at 16, to be honest, because you had
Or completely stupid.
no, I mean, it it led you to where you are today. So I'm sure you made the best decision, given the circumstances. So I really think that, being a high school dropout is not the end of the world, like, most people think, especially for our generation. I think for, the older generation is like the end of the world, but I don't think so. I think, you know, you always have to analyze your options and ponder that, and if given the circumstances it was the best decision for you, then it was the best decision for you, and it
It
led you to
was,
where you
and
are.
I wouldn't have changed a thing.
Yeah.
But so I dropped out and started studying English. At a certain point, I realized that being Brazilian here and not being graduated wouldn't get me anywhere because I'm not a native speaker, so to speak.
Okay, so you
So
had.
I kept sending resumes to schools and I was young and I didn't have a diploma. So who would hire me? Then when I was 20 something, 22, 3, I decided to take a graduation course online, which is the only option we have here. And I graduated in pedagogy. The
Mhm.
funny thing is, I don't teach kids. Like,
But you have the
that's not my
knowledge
thing.
to do that. You have
They
the
tried to
knowledge.
teach me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I decided to take this course because I wanted to be respected by the
Mhm.
parents and by the market, not because it was necessary, mind you.
Yeah.
So
So you
yeah,
were you you were thinking about, other people's opinions like a Japanese person. And
exactly. I knew my English was enough, but I also knew that I had to prove it. That I
yeah,
had to prove that I knew as much as an American person did.
that's yeah,
So
and that's so interesting because so many teachers graduate and need extra help. I mean, I'm a firm believer that everybody needs extra help. And again, you're not above that. I feel like as humans, we're not above anything. So a lot of people graduate and they have a diploma, but they still need help, whether it is with their confidence or knowledge or experience or whatever. Other people, they enter the classroom like they own it, and they teach a brilliant class without having a diploma. So it does, like you said, it's most of the time it is just for show. And I really feel like you can be a great teacher if you do your homework, and your homework doesn't have to be at, a university.
true, true. I guess the secret is you should never stop learning, right?
Yeah, we
And
never stop learning.
as long as you keep doing that, talking to fellow teachers, if you want if you want to take Cambridge exams, TOEFL, TOEIC, whatever you want for personal development, go ahead. But yeah, the secret is if we want to inspire our students, we have to keep moving too, right?
Yeah,
How can we ask them all the time? You should do your homework. You should study for the test. You should take this kind of certification if we are not doing it. So yeah,
yeah.
most of the things that I've done so far, like taking the Cambridge certifications or TOEFL, was to help my students. Like, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too.
Yeah.
It's through hard work. I'm not a genius. I wasn't born speaking English, right? And neither have you.
Yeah. So I, can only imagine that the cultural shock for you must have been hard, right? And how about because you said that, Japanese people, they have a huge cultural difference, especially related to empathy and, to thinking about people constantly, about, everybody else but themselves sometimes, right? I can only imagine that. So how do you, for example, have you ever had a situation that you had like Japanese students and Brazilian students in the same class? And how did that go?
Yes, but they were adults. So I guess the conversation is a little different here.
Yeah.
They were adults and working at the same company. We have
Okay.
a pretty big Brazilian-owned company, but sells to the Japanese market. And yeah, they're one of the biggest companies here in the area. Yeah, so proud, right?
Yeah.
Brazilians.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And they hire, obviously, they hire Brazilian people and also Japanese people because we live in Japan. So that particular group had a very good dynamic, and I didn't see any cultural shocks among them. But I have a feeling that I've been living here for over 20 years and I still experience cultural shock.
Really?
I feel like we Latinos, we are perceived as impolite
Yeah.
because of the way we move our hands, the tone of our voices, the volume of our voices. For them, for them, the Japanese
Yeah.
people, that's so impolite. You have no idea. Because when you move too much, when your volume is too loud, you are getting in other people's spaces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We do that a lot. I get annoyed with that. I have to say that I side with the Japanese people when it comes to that because I'm a little bit, even though I do use my hands a lot when I speak, I don't like when people touch me too much like Brazilians do. Like as Brazilians, we are huggers. And I honestly, I don't like that. Like, leave me alone, give me my space. And I
You
think
should come live in Japan then.
that would be good. I think I should, meet more Japanese people because I totally get that. Because, even though we gesticulate a lot and we are very expressive people, I understand that. And I don't like hugging people and I don't really like when they hug me that much. Like having a personal
But
space. I agree with that.
yeah, personal space is bigger here than it is in Brazil. What worries me though is, for instance, like I said, I noticed that we are seen as impolite here because of the way we act.
Yeah.
But to what extent should we stop being Brazilian, having this identity just to respect other people? You know, there's a fine line there that it's kind of
Definitely.
hard to see.
Yeah.
Should I stop? Should I stop saying hello to my friends by hugging them because it makes Japanese people uncomfortable? You know?
Yeah, but at the same time, you still want to keep who you are. You still want to be true to yourself. Yeah, I get that.
Being an immigrant it's awesome and it sucks at the same time
Yeah,
because you're neither there nor here. You're in
yeah,
a limbo.
yeah.
If I
It's
go to
true.
Brazil, you're gonna think I'm awkward because of my
Really?
mannerisms,
And where are
because
you
of the things
from
I
here in
say.
Brazil,
And
by the way?
I'm
Sorry to
from the
cut you off.
countryside in São Paulo, from Andradina, a small
Okay.
city in the countryside.
Yeah,
Nobody
when
knows
you
it.
when you
It's not on the
said
map.
I'm in the countryside, I was like, maybe she's from where I am. Because even though I live in the capital city, I'm from Espírito Santo, which is a forgotten state.
Right?
Nobody remembers our existence. So but it's okay. So never
I
mind.
think until now I've only met one person from Spirit Santo.
Really? Now
Yeah.
you met two?
But
Or
she used to say she was from Rio. So
okay, sorry. So you met
that's
one. You
why
met
people forget about it.
yeah. And we are, close to Rio and São Paulo, so people forget about us because they have Rio and São Paulo. Like, who cares about Espírito Santo, right?
But I'm sure it's a great state. One day I'm gonna go and visit.
Okay, when you visit, let me know. We'll go to the beach. We have a lot of um,
This is one
beaches
of
and
the things that I miss the most, the
really,
beaches.
oh my God! And
I,
what do you do for fun in Japan?
Here, yeah, that's a difficult question because people people here have all sorts of hobbies. I think because Japan has very well divided four seasons,
Hmm.
summer, spring, fall, and winter. People tend to gravitate towards seasonal things. If it's summer, you obviously go to the beautiful beaches here in Japan with their dark sand. And if it's spring, people would go see the cherry blossoms and have picnics. So yeah, I think people do what the season tells them to do. If it's winter, they go snowboarding and skiing, which is not my case. Wintertime, I stay put at home. I hate the winter.
Really? That's not your cup of tea?
Not at all.
How about
When I
the
first experienced Japanese winter, I was like, I don't think I can live here forever. Even though it doesn't snow in my city, it gets to like -3 sometimes, and that for
oh my
me
goodness.
is
Definitely.
unthinkable.
Yeah.
Too cold.
Yeah, like in Brazil, when it's like 20 degrees, we're already, wearing sweaters like I am today. So I'm just curious because, to be honest, when I invite teachers to come here, I'm always thinking about my students and the teachers who follow me and if it's going to be interesting for them. With you, of course, I thought that it was going to be interesting for them, but I was being a little selfish too because I was like, oh my God, I need to have her because she's from Japan. So I need to ask her everything. So I'm going to ask a selfish question now. And it's about the cherry blossoms that you mentioned. Are they that gorgeous when you see them in person? Because in the pictures, they are gorgeous, like stunning. So is that true?
I love spring here. It's the best season. If we didn't have the spring allergies, I could say it was my favorite, but it isn't because we have hay fever here. It's
Yeah.
a kind of pollen allergy. But yes, they are stunning. And Japanese people, it's like they're pilgrims. Every year in April, March, April, people will go to the best cherry blossom viewing spots and they would go with excursions and like thousands of people lay down like a picnic thing and have a picnic under the cherry blossoms. There's even a name for that, which is
Really?
hanami.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody saying here the cherry blossom in Japan is amazing. I assume that this person lives here or has lived here. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it is. And if one day you come to Japan, you have to come in
Oh,
March
definitely.
or April because it is one of the best experiences you're going to have here. And seeing all the famous sites like Kyoto temples or even Tokyo
Hmm.
covered by cherry blossoms is out of this world. It's amazing.
Yeah, when I visit, I'm definitely not going in winter. Yeah, I'm always cold, so
You
no,
should not. But wait, aren't there cherry blossoms in Brazil too?
yeah, but not where I live. So
Mm.
and not like in Japan, not at all. There is a place I forget the name, but there is a place that have the cherry blossoms, but it's very little and actually nothing compared to Japan compared to what we see in pictures. So
I don't
I
think so.
yeah. not at all.
And I think the beautiful thing about cherry blossoms is the meaning of it.
Mhm.
I guess people are attracted to them so much because they only last a week. And you've got to take this opportunity, you know? So I think that's what it means. People see the cherry blossoms, they are stunning the first week. 5 days later, it's gone. And sometimes it doesn't even last that long. If it rains a lot, if the wind is too strong, they go away. And I guess people see it like life, you know? I
Yeah.
gotta take this chance and do the things I want right now because you never know what's gonna happen
That's a
tomorrow.
great analogy, actually. That's really,
Yeah.
symbolic and beautiful.
Yeah, but I think Japanese people have this idea of either not only spring but also fall because here we have the fall leaves and all the autumn colors. And it's the same idea, you know. It's beautiful one day, but then tomorrow it's gone. And hopefully we're gonna see it again next year, but you never
But we
know.
never know. Yeah. That's so awesome because, you know, as much as we study these things and we try to, you know, find all this knowledge, it's not the same as, when you talk to a person who lives there. So I really appreciate that. And last but definitely not least, I would like to talk to you about the parents because here in Brazil, the parents are usually involved to an extent, but usually pretty involved when it comes to the students' education and all that, especially since the pandemic. So, how about that? How about, in Japan? Is it the same thing? How do the parents, how much do they get involved?
I feel like until the kid is 10 or 11, before they start junior high school, the mother is extremely involved in their education, like academic education.
Yeah.
Uh, but after that, it feels like I can't tell you because I don't have kids, and most of the kids around me go to Brazilian schools. I feel like it belongs to the state. The school takes care of them from junior high school on. All they do, the kids here, they study from 8 in the morning till 3, 4 in the afternoon. And after that, they have extracurricular activities. So it's common to see kids going home at around 7 or 8 at night. Kids, I mean, junior high school age
Yeah.
kids. And going to school on Saturdays and Sundays too, to play their sports. So yeah, it's hard to tell. I feel like the mothers are very present when they're kids. There's this whole culture of making the lunchbox to the child, and it looks, like little cartoon characters, and that's
Yeah.
a lot of work for one lunchbox.
Yeah, it's
But
true.
after
But
a
now,
certain age, yeah,
yeah.
after a certain age, I feel like the parents hand the child to the school, and it's like you take care of them, and I've done my part
Yeah.
so far.
That it's interesting, to have such a clear turning point, right? That's really interesting because in
I
Brazil,
also
yeah.
think go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I also think it's necessary because Japanese kids, even though there's the problem of not voicing your opinions, not saying what you think, at in one side we have that, but at the same time we have extremely independent kids who go to school on their own when they're 6 years old, and you don't see that in any other country.
No.
So I feel like this letting go is important too.
Yeah.
They can do a lot of things themselves. They can take trains by themselves, they're like tiny little adults that
Yeah.
don't want to talk about their opinions, but still,
It's
nobody's
funny
perfect.
because, yeah, it's funny because this afternoon I was talking to my student's grandma and she said, "Oh my God, I'm so worried about my granddaughter because today I let her go to the park and the park is 2 blocks away from her house. I let her go to the park with her friend alone for the first time, and she was like so worried and anxious. She was like shaking the whole time that I was there. And her granddaughter is 15 years old.
No way.
And this is common in Brazil because it's so dangerous. And it was like in the end of the afternoon, like at 4:30 p.m. And she was so worried. She was like, oh my God, I can't stop thinking about her. And when I left, because I teach this teenager's little sister, and so when I left, she said, oh my God, I'm leaving with you because I'm gonna go to the park to see if everything's okay. So she ended up going to the park to check on her. And this is common here. I remember that when I was a teenager, my mom was, not that extreme, but she was worried. And, having that kind of freedom is so amazing there in Japan.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I like the most about this country.
Yeah.
It's the freedom. You can
Yeah.
go, there's no freedom of speech, but you can walk, you can go wherever you want, even though it's not 100% safe, especially being a woman. You shouldn't go walking in Tokyo at 2 in the morning alone,
Yeah.
but it is safer than most countries. I mean, you can leave the doors open.
Oh
Nobody's
my
gonna get
God.
in.
Yeah.
Uh, I guess not anymore, but a couple of years ago, people used to, I don't know, go to the convenience store and leave the car on with the keys on the engine because
Oh,
it wasn't, nobody would take it. Who would? If
oh
everyone
my God.
has, if everyone has a car, everyone has a house, why would someone steal from you?
That's
So
true.
yeah, it's
That's true.
unbelievable, right?
Yeah, here in Brazil, they take the car and you. They take the car with you inside. They don't care.
And drop you off somewhere far
Yeah,
away.
like here we have a gate, a door, like 5 different locks. And that's so, it's sad to think about, the difference here in Brazil when they're in Japan. So, like you said, it's interesting because you have so much freedom on one hand, but on the other hand, you think 1,000 times before opening your mouth. So that's so interesting, to
Especially
see
if you're a foreigner, because you don't want to offend anyone.
that.
Yeah, cars, no, houses in Japan don't even have a gate.
Oh my
It's like in
goodness.
America, you know?
Oh my
Yeah, like
God.
there's the street and there's the door of your house.
Oh my
There's
God. No.
nothing separating us
Like,
from the outside world.
I live in an apartment, and like on my door, there are 3 locks and a chain to close
My
it.
God.
And my sister lives in a house, and in her house, there is a big gate, a door on the outside, and another door on the inside of the house. So that's crazy.
That
So there,
says a lot about the country, right?
right? It does. And that's really sad, I think. So, um, I really think that situation there should be more valued because honestly, I didn't know about that. And I
I'm
love
gonna show
Japan.
you the window. I'm sitting in front of a window.
Okay.
There's nothing there. It's just glass.
Oh my
We
God.
we don't we don't put fences or anything, you know. That's the neighbor, and that's where I am.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I really value that. I don't take it for granted at all.
Hmm.
Every day I go to bed and then I think, thank God we have freedom. It's safe here, you know.
Yeah.
Not 100%. You should always be careful, you know, look at your surroundings if you're a girl, but
Yeah.
still,
Because some people are
compared to
just
other
evil.
countries.
Yeah. Some people are just
Mm.
evil. But, when it comes to poverty and violence in general, oh my God, so different.
Yeah, here when you see a homeless person, it's like, oh my God, is that true? Is that guy really homeless? You don't see much of
Is
that
that an
here.
actor?
Yes.
Is this a prank? That's
Mm-hmm.
crazy, right? Okay.
Mm.
So thank you so much for, coming here today, Lais. I'm really
It
glad. I
was
learned
my
a lot.
pleasure.
I learned a
And
lot,
let
and
me say, your English is amazing.
thank
Wow.
you. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, your students should be proud
Oh,
of
thank you
being
so
your
much.
students.
It means a lot.
Thank you
So,
for inviting me, Isabel. Let's do this more often, whenever you want.
definitely, let's do this again. But before we wrap this up, I would like to give you some space to talk about your job, if you have any courses, and just, a little Lais moment.
Yeah, currently, I get lots of requests from people from Brazil, like asking, can I be your student? And at the moment, because of the time difference,
Yeah.
I'm not accepting any students from Brazil. But you guys can follow me on Instagram. I post tips every day. I'm not trying to sell a course or anything. I just do it for fun, especially to help my students here too, because that's where they are. They
Yeah.
are inside this little box here. So yeah, follow me on Instagram. I post tips every day on stories. I try to keep my feed updated with grammar tips, idioms, etc., etc. So if
Yeah,
you
your
want
content
to,
is amazing. It's so creative and
thank
artistic.
you.
And when I would never be able to do that, but your feed is so, what's the word that they use a lot now? It's so, oh my God, I forgot, I blanked.
Aesthetic.
Aesthetic. That's the word that I was looking for. It's so aesthetic. Mine is just a mess, but yours is like so satisfying to look at and so
Thank you.
artistic.
I appreciate
So
it.
yeah, it's so congratulations. It's really really nice. And I just want to say that like I told you before, I mentor teachers. So I do have a course. It's called Be the Material, and every time I have a live stream, I have a little discount. So if anyone here is a teacher and would like to check it out, the link is in my bio. And if you use the the code Be the Material 80, you get 80% off your purchase. So that's a lot, right?
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. So because every time we have a live stream, I do give discounts. So this is the biggest by far because 80%, right?
I should
So
invest on this one too. That's impressive.
so the link is in my bio, okay? And it is only for teachers, for English teachers. So if anybody is interested in it, it's in my bio. So thank you one more time, and I hope to do this again soon, right?
Thank you, Isabel, for having me. And yeah, let's do this anytime you want. Thanks for inviting
Okay,
me.
thank you. Have a nice day.
You too.
Bye.
Oh, good night.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
See ya.